If you follow this channel, you probably know that I like fighting games, and I like anime. So in theory, when my two passions come together to make Dragon Ball FighterZ, it should be everything I've ever dreamed of. And in some aspects, it is. I love Dragon Ball FighterZ, but from a very, very casual perspective. I never put much time into the game because it has two things working against it for my personal taste. One, I don't really like the 3 versus 3 format in fighting games. It's not really for me. And another one is that it's Dragon Ball. I'm not overly passionate about Dragon Ball. I'm not against Dragon Ball. I do actually have a few Dragon Ball characters I really like. Goku Black, Trunks, Gotenks, and a handful of others. But I can't help but feel a little bit jealous for the very passionate Dragon Ball fans who got their love letter to the series with a game in my favorite genre of video games. Now, if I'm being entirely honest with you before I continue the rest of this video, if I could just choose a game to get made by ArcSystemWorks, I would choose My Hero Academia or Ruby. But bringing myself back to reality for just a single moment, Naruto is the most likely series to get the next ArcSystemWorks game based on an anime license from Bandai Namco. Now, before I continue that part of the discussion, I do want to mention this poll that you might have loosely heard about here or there. I've heard some people on the internet misrepresent this poll, so I want to take the time to clear this up just in case you got wrapped up in the confusion. The poll had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure coming out on top as the very next ArcSystemWorks game, with Bleach and My Hero Academia falling in the number 2 and 3 slots respectively. But this poll should not be used as an indicator or variable when talking about future ArcSystemWorks / Bandai Namco games. This poll was purely conducted for fun by event hubs. So when I talk about this poll, know that I'm not attacking event hubs. They did not intend this to be used as anybody's argument. This poll is not very functional at all. Sure, you had a lot of people voting on it, but that's not important. One of the most important parts about collecting this type of data is actually the audience you use to collect it from. You can be very effective actually at polling certain audiences with only a couple hundred votes, but you need to specifically go out of your way to target the correct audience. To give a pretty basic example of how like the audience thing could be a problem, if you go to a Bleach subreddit, for example, and you ask them this same question, the answer will end up being 80% Bleach. But perhaps you could argue that Event Hubs is the perfect place to collect this type of data about a potential anime fighting game because it's a fighting game website. The problem is that the type of person that's going to be on Event Hubs is the type of person that plays a lot of fighting games, and therefore they're already pretty likely to purchase the brand new ArcSystemWorks game regardless of what anime it's chosen from. So it's not exactly a target audience when you think about how to market your next game, because most of the people on this poll are purchasing it regardless of which anime is picked. Obviously, there's going to be people in there who wouldn't purchase it if it was like a, I don't know, Yu Yu Hakusho game or something. For the most part, they're probably purchasing the new ArcSystemWorks game. And with all of that out of the way, I can continue the discussion. My apologies for that slight diversion. Naruto does seem like the next most likely step if Bandai Namco does intend to work with ArcSystemWorks again in the future. Naruto has the benefit of being one of the most popular anime in the world, and of course, it has a huge nostalgia factor working for it. I can't stress how important that nostalgia factor is. Even people not watching anime today are still more likely to be drawn to a Naruto game because they remember it from their childhood. I seriously cannot stress how important that aspect is. But Naruto isn't even really the important part of this conversation. If you don't think the next ArcSystemWorks game is going to be a Naruto game, it's not particularly important. Whenever I say Naruto game, just replace it in your head with the next Bandai Namco collaboration with ArcSystemWorks based on an anime, but that's a lot of words, so I'm just going to say Naruto FighterZ to keep it simple. So is this game actually going to happen? Well, I've decided to make this video now because it's the first time that I've started to doubt it. I've also decided to make this video now because if this does happen, I think we're going to hear about it in the next wave of ArcSystemWorks games. Dragon Ball FighterZ released in early 2018, and here we are in early 2020 with no news about a new Bandai Namco x ArcSystemWorks collaboration. Back when Dragon Ball FighterZ first came out, or when it was first announced, I saw so much support around the game, so much hype. I've never seen anything like it. I was convinced that Bandai Namco and ArcSystemWorks would see that reaction, see the sales numbers, which have been also very impressive, and therefore want to work together again in the future. In my head, I thought, well, that process is probably going to take about 2 years because of how long game development is, and that type of process takes a long time. And here we are on the 2-year mark with data mined files suggesting that yet another season of Dragon Ball FighterZ DLC is coming, Granblue Fantasy Versus is right around the corner, and Guilty Gear Strife is still fairly early in development. development. But a lot of this still kind of plugs into how I imagined this would play out. Guilty Gear Strife is probably something that was planned a while ago, possibly even before the release of Dragon Ball FighterZ, so any new Bandai Namco ArcSystemWorks collaboration wouldn't be in the works until after Guilty Gear Strife was kind of out of the way. Granblue Fantasy Versus was licensed by a third-party company. I don't know when they reached out to ArcSystemWorks, but regardless, if Bandai Namco did want to work with ArcSystemWorks in the future, it sounds like they would have to wait their turn. And if all of that is true, and if Bandai Namco and ArcSystemWorks do intend to work together again in the future, I would expect to hear about it in the next wave of ArcSystemWorks games. And when I say wave, what I mean is BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle plus Dragon Ball FighterZ was like a wave of ArcSystemWorks games. And then this year we're getting Guilty Gear and Granblue Fantasy Versus, which is like a wave of ArcSystemWorks games. So the next wave of ArcSystemWorks games is where I would expect to hear about the next Bandai collaboration, if that's something that's going to happen. If we get to that point and we hear about the next wave of ArcSystemWorks games and it's not a Bandai Namco game, and it's not based on an anime, well then I'd say I think it's time to give up and go home and just not expect a Naruto FighterZ and just not expect any anime Bandai Namco ArcSystemWorks collaboration. It sucks to hear, but I think that's the reality of the situation. One really nice thing about it taking this long though is that that does mean if this happens, it will be on next generation consoles, which will be pretty cool. But what do you think? Do you think we're actually going to get an ArcSystemWorks Bandai Namco game again? Do you think we'll get a Naruto FighterZ? I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Bilbzy, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next one.